Ladies and gentlemen, your life will never rise higher than your mind, and your future will never be stronger than your ability to master your emotions. Emotions are powerful servants, but they are dangerous masters. Emotions are one of the most beautiful gifts of human existence. They give color to our experiences, passion to our relationships, and energy to our pursuits. Without emotions, life would feel empty, mechanical, and void of meaning. Joy makes us celebrate, love draws us to connection, anger warns us of injustice, fear protects us from danger, and sadness allows us to grieve and heal. In this sense, emotions are powerful servants. They provide the fuel and the drive that move us into action. They remind us that we are alive and sensitive to the world around us. When guided correctly, they can empower us to reach heights that pure logic alone could never achieve. But the very power that makes emotions valuable is also the reason they can be so dangerous when left unchecked. If emotions are allowed to take the lead, they stop being servants and become masters. And a life governed by emotional impulses is a life without stability, clarity, or direction. Consider anger, for example. As a servant, anger can awaken a sense of justice, pushing us to correct what is wrong and stand for what is right. But as a master, anger blinds judgment, provokes destructive behavior, and burns bridges that took years to build. Fear, when serving the mind, keeps us alert and cautious. But when ruling our lives, it paralyzes us, robs us of opportunities, and locks us in cages of imagined threats. Even love, the most celebrated of emotions, becomes destructive if it dominates without the balance of wisdom, leading to obsession, unhealthy attachment, or poor choices that cloud sound judgment. The reason emotions must be servants is that they are temporary by nature. Feelings change with circumstances, and they often do not represent the truth of a situation. A person may feel like a failure in the moment of disappointment, but that feeling does not define the reality of their potential. A person may feel unworthy after rejection, but that emotion does not erase their value. If emotions are allowed to rule, a temporary storm becomes a permanent decision, and the course of a life can be altered by a passing mood. This is why discipline of the mind is critical. The mind must interpret, filter, and give direction to emotions so that they become useful rather than harmful. Emotions are also contagious. When you are ruled by your emotions, you not only destabilize yourself, but you also influence others in destructive ways. A leader who cannot control his or her emotions spreads fear, confusion, and mistrust. A parent who explodes in anger leaves scars on a child's heart. A partner who lets jealousy control them poisons the relationship. But when emotions are mastered and put in their rightful place, they inspire confidence, create harmony, and bring out the best in others. The truth is, emotions are meant to give energy, not direction. They are meant to be used, not obeyed. The mind must lead, and the emotions must follow. When you recognize this order, you learn how to harness emotions to serve your vision rather than sabotage it. Energy without discipline is chaos, but energy under control becomes power. Emotions under the leadership of a trained mind transform into motivation, creativity, resilience, and compassion. That is why emotions must remain servants, powerful enough to fuel your life, yet humble enough to stay under the command of wisdom and discipline. Progress in life is often the result of consistency, discipline, and small steps taken faithfully over time. Building a career, nurturing a relationship, growing a business, or developing character does not happen overnight. It requires patience, sacrifice, and endurance. Yet all of these efforts, which may take years to establish, can be undone in a single moment when emotions are left uncontrolled. Emotions are powerful forces, and when they are not managed wisely, they have the ability to wipe out progress that has been made through years of hard work and dedication. Take anger as an example. A person may work for decades to build a reputation of trust and respect in their community or workplace, but one outburst of uncontrolled rage can damage that reputation in minutes. Harsh words spoken in anger can wound relationships beyond repair, leaving behind regret and broken trust. What was built carefully over time can crumble swiftly when the mind loses control and emotion takes over. In business, uncontrolled anger can cause poor decisions that cost opportunities, partnerships, and finances, leaving behind losses that could have been avoided with a moment of calm reflection. Fear, too, is another emotion that can destroy progress if left unchecked. Fear has the ability to paralyze the human spirit, making people retreat from opportunities they have prepared for their entire lives. A person may have developed the skills, built the connections, and positioned themselves perfectly for success, but when fear rises and is allowed to dominate, it whispers lies that they are not ready, not capable, or not worthy. The result is hesitation, missed chances, and sometimes the loss of everything they worked for. Fear convinces people to stay where it feels safe, even when progress demands courage. Without control over fear, progress is delayed or destroyed altogether. Jealousy is another destructive emotion that, when uncontrolled, can silently corrode progress. Instead of focusing on growth and personal development, jealousy shifts energy toward comparison and resentment. A person ruled by jealousy becomes blind to their own achievements and opportunities, wasting valuable time chasing after others, rather than developing what they already have. This distraction often leads to decisions rooted in bitterness, sabotaging relationships, and ultimately hindering advancement. What could have been a steady journey forward is derailed by a lack of contentment and self-control. Even emotions like excitement, which seem positive, can be harmful when uncontrolled. Overexcitement often leads to impulsive decisions without consideration of long-term consequences. Many have squandered resources, taken unwise risks, or broken stability in their lives simply because they allowed unchecked excitement to override rational thinking. Progress requires balance, and emotions that are not tempered by wisdom can cause a person to move too quickly, ignore red flags, and end up undoing their own efforts. Uncontrolled emotions also affect relationships, which are often the foundation of progress. Trust, respect, and collaboration are critical in both personal and professional growth. Yet uncontrolled emotions such as resentment, bitterness, or pride can break these bonds. A single insult, a rash reaction, or an unforgiven offense can end partnerships, alienate supporters, and isolate individuals. Without strong relationships, progress becomes fragile, and even the most talented person struggles to advance when they cannot maintain harmony with others. The danger of uncontrolled emotions lies in their ability to exaggerate the present moment and blind us to the bigger picture. They make the temporary feel permanent and push people to act without considering the long-term cost. Progress is not destroyed by external forces alone. Often it is sabotaged from within when emotions take the wheel. For this reason, controlling emotions is not about suppressing them, but about guiding them, ensuring they serve growth instead of destroying it. The mind is the most critical part of human existence because it functions as the gatekeeper of life. Everything that enters or exits a person's life is filtered through the mind. Thoughts shape attitudes, attitudes influence behavior, and behavior produces results. What you allow into your mind determines the quality of your decisions, and those decisions shape the course of your destiny. Just as a gate controls who enters a property, the mind controls what ideas, beliefs, and emotions are allowed to influence your life. If the gate is left open and unguarded, anything can walk in, including doubt, fear, negativity, and destructive habits. But when the gate is guarded with discipline and wisdom, only what is beneficial is permitted to enter, protecting and strengthening the path to progress. The reason the mind is so powerful is because it is the place where perception is formed. Life is not only about what happens to you, but how your mind interprets what happens. Two people can face the same situation, yet one sees it as a challenge to grow, while the other sees it as a reason to give up. The difference is not the circumstance, but the gatekeeper, the mind. When the mind is trained, it filters experiences through clarity, purpose, and resilience. When it is untrained, it allows discouragement, resentment, and hopelessness to dominate, closing the door to opportunities that might otherwise lead to growth. The mind also determines how emotions are handled. Emotions in themselves are neither good nor bad. They simply express the inner state of the heart. But without the guidance of the mind, emotions can spiral out of control and lead to destructive outcomes. The mind, acting as gatekeeper, evaluates emotions and decides whether they should be expressed, restrained, or redirected. For example, when anger rises, the mind can choose to channel that energy into problem solving instead of destruction. When fear appears, the mind can analyze whether the fear is valid or simply an exaggeration, preventing paralysis and loss of opportunity. By exercising this authority, the mind ensures that emotions serve the individual rather than sabotage them. Another aspect of the mind as gatekeeper is its role in focus. Attention is one of the most valuable resources in life, and where the mind directs focus, energy follows. If the gatekeeper allows distractions, endless scrolling, negativity, or envy to consume attention, energy is wasted on unproductive paths. But when the mind filters out the noise and concentrates on goals, learning, and purposeful action, progress becomes inevitable. Guarding focus is as important as guarding values, because whatever has your consistent attention will shape your habits and outcomes. The mind also has the power to reject or accept beliefs. Every day, people are bombarded with messages from society, media, and peers. Some of these messages uplift and empower, while others limit and destroy. If the gatekeeper is asleep, limiting beliefs such as, "You are not good enough," "You will never succeed," or "You are trapped by your past," can take root and grow like weeds, choking potential. But when the mind is alert and disciplined, it identifies lies and refuses to allow them entrance. Instead, it welcomes truth, affirmations, and vision, cultivating a mental environment where progress can flourish. Ultimately, the mind is the control center of destiny. It guards the thoughts that become words, the beliefs that become actions, and the attitudes that determine success or failure. Just as a city is only as safe as the guards at its gate, a life is only as strong as the vigilance of the mind. Emotions are an undeniable part of the human experience. They rise naturally in response to circumstances, thoughts, and interactions, making them very real in how they affect the body, the mind, and behavior. When a person feels joy, there is a surge of energy that brightens their perspective. When fear comes, the heart races and the body prepares to defend itself. When sadness sets in, tears flow and the world feels heavier. These experiences are authentic and must never be dismissed as imaginary, because emotions are indeed real in their presence and impact. However, the reality of an emotion does not guarantee its accuracy in defining truth or guiding action. An emotion may feel powerful, but that does not mean it is right. Consider fear. It is one of the most common emotions that feels real in the moment, often producing physical reactions like trembling, anxiety, or hesitation. Yet fear is not always right. Many times, people fear situations that pose no true threat. Fear of failure convinces someone not to attempt new opportunities, even though success is possible. Fear of rejection holds people back from building meaningful relationships, even though acceptance and love may be waiting. The emotion is real, it feels strong and convincing, but it is not right because it misrepresents reality. When people act solely on fear, they limit their growth and deny themselves possibilities that could have transformed their lives. Anger is another example. When something feels unfair or offensive, anger rises quickly. It feels justified, powerful, and even righteous. Yet uncontrolled anger often misguides judgment. Many arguments, broken relationships, and even crimes were fueled by anger that seemed right in the heat of the moment, but later revealed itself to be destructive and wrong. Acting on anger without reflection blinds people to facts, distorts perspective, and leads to actions they regret once the emotion fades. The reality of anger does not mean it is the right emotion to follow. Sadness also demonstrates this principle. When disappointment or loss comes, sadness is natural and valid. It allows the heart to process pain and the mind to slow down. But sometimes sadness whispers lies, convincing people that life will never improve or that hope no longer exists. It magnifies temporary struggles and disguises them as permanent realities. The sadness feels real, but it is not right in declaring the end of progress or joy. Many people who succumb to despair later realize that the situation was not as final as the emotion made it seem. Even positive emotions can be misleading. Excitement, for instance, is real and uplifting, but when it dominates without wisdom, it can push people into impulsive decisions. A person may feel excited about a business idea or a relationship and rush into commitments without proper evaluation. Later, when the emotion settles, reality exposes flaws that excitement blinded them to see. The initial emotion was real, but it was not entirely right in guiding choices. The truth is that emotions are designed to be indicators, not dictators. They reveal what the heart feels in the moment, but do not always reflect the full picture. A trained mind must step in to evaluate emotions, asking whether they align with truth, values, and long-term goals. Emotions are like signals on a dashboard. They alert us, but they cannot drive the vehicle. Acting solely on what feels real in the moment often leads to regret, but balancing emotion with wisdom leads to clarity. Emotions deserve acknowledgement and respect, but they must be tested and guided, because reality and truth are not always the same as what we feel. Life is a journey shaped by choices, and choices are influenced by two powerful forces, the mind and the emotions. The mind is the seat of reasoning, logic, and judgment, while emotions provide energy, passion, and drive. Both are essential, yet each by itself is incomplete. A life governed only by cold logic lacks compassion, creativity, and human connection. A life ruled only by emotions lacks stability, discipline, and direction. True progress toward destiny requires balance between these two forces. When the mind provides clarity and structure, and emotions provide fuel and motivation, together they create harmony that propels a person toward fulfillment. The mind has the ability to see ahead, to plan, and to weigh consequences. It functions like a compass, pointing toward purpose and keeping decisions aligned with long-term vision. Without the mind's guidance, emotions can become reckless, reacting to temporary feelings rather than permanent values. Yet the mind alone is not enough. Knowledge, strategy, and planning may build a path, but without passion and desire, the journey becomes empty and progress stalls. This is why emotions are vital. They provide the energy to endure challenges, the excitement to innovate, and the compassion to connect with others. The mind shows the way, but emotions give the will to walk it. Balance comes when neither is allowed to dominate the other. For example, in leadership, logic without emotion makes a leader harsh and disconnected, while emotion without logic makes them unstable and inconsistent. But when a leader combines rational thinking with empathy, they inspire trust and guide people effectively. The same is true in personal life. In relationships, emotions may draw people together, but without the mind's wisdom, love can turn into obsession or dependency. Likewise, logic may help resolve conflicts, but without emotional warmth, relationships become cold and transactional. Balance ensures that love is both heartfelt and wise, stable yet passionate. Destiny is not achieved by accident, but by disciplined alignment. The path is often filled with obstacles, disappointments, and delays. In such moments, emotions like frustration or despair may urge someone to quit, but the mind reminds them of the bigger picture and helps them stay the course. At the same time, when the mind is weary from calculation and doubt, emotions such as hope and determination rise to encourage endurance. Balance ensures that in times of weakness, one supports the other. The mind steadies emotions, and emotions energize the mind. History and daily life show countless examples of people who failed because they lacked this balance. Brilliant minds, full of knowledge, have lived unfulfilled lives because they lacked the emotional drive to act. Passionate dreamers, full of energy, have destroyed opportunities because they lacked the mental discipline to channel their emotions productively. Destiny requires both. It is not just about knowing where you should go, but also having the passion to get there. It is not just about feeling strongly, but also knowing wisely. When the mind and emotions work together, life becomes a symphony of clarity and energy. The mind defines the vision, sets the goals, and evaluates the path, while emotions provide the courage to take risks, the strength to endure hardship, and the compassion to make a difference. This balance creates momentum that is sustainable, decisions that are wise yet bold, and actions that are passionate yet grounded. It is this partnership of mind and emotions that guides a person into their destiny. To master life, one must first master emotions, because emotions influence every choice, every relationship, and every opportunity that shapes destiny. Emotions are deeply connected to how people perceive the world and respond to circumstances. They affect thoughts, behavior, and even physical health. A person who cannot manage emotions becomes vulnerable to instability, impulsive decisions, and constant regret. But a person who learns how to harness and direct emotions gains control over their path, making decisions from a place of clarity instead of chaos. Mastering emotions does not mean denying them or pretending they do not exist, but learning to recognize them, understand them, and guide them so they serve growth rather than sabotage it. Life is full of unpredictable challenges. Disappointments, betrayals, and failures are inevitable. When emotions are in control, such moments can feel overwhelming, pushing a person to quit or make rash choices. Yet when emotions are mastered, challenges are viewed as opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. For example, instead of letting fear dictate retreat, a mastered emotion transforms fear into alertness and careful preparation. Instead of allowing anger to destroy relationships, a mastered emotion channels that energy into problem solving or advocating for justice. Mastery turns raw feelings into refined strength, shaping outcomes that build rather than break. Relationships are another area where emotional mastery determines the quality of life. Families, friendships, and partnerships thrive not just on love, but also on patience, forgiveness, and self-control. Many relationships collapse because people react impulsively in anger, jealousy, or pride. Words spoken in a heated moment cannot easily be taken back, and actions made under emotional pressure often leave lasting damage. Mastery over emotions creates the space to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, and to seek resolution instead of revenge. This not only preserves relationships, but also creates environments where trust, respect, and love can flourish. To master emotions is to master the art of building meaningful and lasting connections. Success in career and leadership also depends heavily on emotional control. A person may have great talent and skill, but without emotional stability, those strengths are undermined. Leaders who are ruled by temper lose the respect of their teams. Professionals who cannot handle stress burn out and make careless errors. Entrepreneurs who are driven by greed or impatience take risks that collapse their ventures. Mastery of emotions allows individuals to stay calm under pressure, to make decisions with clarity, and to handle both success and failure with dignity. It ensures that progress is steady and not destroyed by a single reckless choice. Another aspect of mastering emotions is the ability to maintain inner peace. Many people are controlled by external events, what others say, what happens around them, or the ups and downs of circumstances. They feel happy only when life is favorable and fall into despair when things go wrong. But when emotions are mastered, peace is no longer dependent on circumstances. A person can remain steady, optimistic, and focused even in the middle of storms. This inner strength becomes a shield against the unpredictability of life and provides resilience to keep moving forward. Ultimately, life is a series of decisions, and emotions play a role in each one. If emotions control those decisions, life becomes unstable and inconsistent. But when emotions are controlled, decisions align with values, vision, and long-term goals. This creates a life of stability, fulfillment, and growth. Mastering emotions equals mastering life, because it grants control over the very force that influences destiny.